Hey everybody, welcome to FF Uncensored. Today, I'm here with Trevor, my co-host.
Hi, welcome. Welcome. So, we're going to start talking about some stuff that is called My Ex Hurts. So,
No, I don't think you can call it. I think you just need to say blank because it says my ex hurts, and that just sounds weird.
my blank hurts. But we should preface this. We are not medical professionals, and this shouldn't be construed as medical advice. So, other disclaimer. But we'll talk about our thought process around when we have someone that tells us that something's going on. How do we think about it? And what are drills that we give clients to be able to potentially get rid of it? And we don't always get rid of it either. Like, let's be honest, sometimes there's orthopedic things that need orthopedic professionals, but
It's medical professionals, but I will say that even if you are someone that you might need medical impedance, you might also need strength training building up to that and after that again. Today's topic, we are going to talk about my knee hurts.
my knee hurts.
What do I do?
Yeah.
And in this case, it's what are we going to do first? Because if you are my client, you walk in and you tell me that your knee hurts, I'm not just going to be like, all right, let's try XYZ. I'm going to ask you where. I'm going to ask when you're doing what does your knee hurt?
Yeah. One thing we like to do a lot is what we call a test retest. And so we find the pattern that is uncomfortable or that creates tension or whatever kind of quote unquote symptom we're looking at, right? We find the pattern that aggravates it, and then we try a couple drills, and that those drills will be determined based upon like what it feels like. Is it sharp? Is it tension? Right? Like what's going on? And then we'll retest. And if we see improvements, right, that gives us an idea on like, okay, hey, this was just a mobility issue. Because if we start thinking about anatomy, right, like my knee hurts. All right, cool. The knee is this is all like fresh in my mind because we were just talking about this at our last team meeting. Is kind of talking through strategies around how to help people that are having these issues, right? But just like Ashley was doing the finger thing, right? This joint is very similar to your knee joint, right? We call it a hinge joint. If you try to make your finger do this, and you try to twist this thing over and over and over again, right? It would probably get a little bit irritated, right? Because that joint is kind of set up like this, where we want to go back and forth. It likes to go front to back. It doesn't like to go side to side, or it doesn't like
I
twist to
really feel
turn.
like we need a skeleton right now. Like I cannot believe that neither one of us have like a little mini desk skeleton.
I'm really good at like my analogies like this. This is what it's like.
Well, and your patella sits right in front of the crease. So if it's two knuckles that sit, two knuckles that, none of mine sit together nicely. There we go. Your patella would sit right in that hole.
Yeah. So it kind of like hangs out on top, right? And so where it hurts is sometimes a good indicator for us. Like if someone is having, we'll call it like patella knee pain, right? Where like it hurts right under their kneecap. My head goes, all right, our quads might be tight, or there might be some tightness up the chain, upstream, that's just holding that patella a little too tight to the bones underneath, so that when I go into a squat or when I go into a split squat, especially, I feel that tension right on my patella. Cool. Many times we can try a drill and we'll know if that's the issue pretty quickly. And so where it hurts is kind of the first one, right? Is it medial? Is it outside? Is it lateral? Is it on the patella? Is it below the patella? Like, is it right where it attaches?
And Trevor's also talking about the front of the knee. Then we also have all of these same attachments in the backside of your knee as well. So like I feel it in my knee, but it's really like the top part of your calf or maybe the bottom part of your hamstring. There's so much that goes on there. I would like to also say sometimes when we deal with knee pain is coming from muscle weakness. So sometimes no amount of foam rolling, soft tissue work, and stretching is going to actually make your knee feel better. The thing that you need to make your knee feel better is we need to make it stronger. So then it's finding an exercise that you can do with low pain, like on a scale of 1 to 10, we want to be like 3 or 4 or less pain. But you can do the exercise and the pain doesn't get worse as you do it, because sometimes pain is just muscle weakness. And actually, I would probably say probably the majority of time that I run into it, my clients are dealing with pain because of muscle weakness, not necessarily like, yes, you have tight muscles. Yes, all of this stuff is going on. But if we can strengthen the muscles, then that joint pain usually alleviates. At least I find that a lot with knees primarily.
And we also have to look at activities, right? And so what I was talking about, let's say we have a runner, right? And their knees hurt. They may not have the strength to support that knee as they're running. And so that knee is doing a lot of things it shouldn't be doing, right? To help them run. And so our body is always going to try and accomplish the task that we're asking it to do, right? And it'll find any workaround in order to accomplish tasks. And so it'll just create inefficiencies to be able to accomplish the task we're asking it to do. But now if we're asking that, if now if we're asking our body to accomplish a task that's really inefficient, hundreds and thousands of times over and over and over again, you can start to see where things will start to wear down, where it's like, okay, this isn't efficient anymore. The body's starting to kind of give you some indicators that there's something going on. And that's one of the ways I like to think about pain too, especially pain that just kind of comes out of nowhere. Like there's one thing, like I burned my hand on the grill last night, right? Like that is very clear. I set my hand on a hot grill and the hotness on your skin burns your skin, right? Pain, right? Not a fun type of pain. But the pains that just kind of like show up out of nowhere, or if it's like over time, I didn't do anything that caused this, right? I didn't fall, I didn't jump off a tall building or like something like that. Like it's just like my knee just gets kind of cranky when I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Those are actually probably pretty good indicators that there's not actually anything wrong. There's just something that's not working correctly. So we like to think of the body in like systems because it really is a system. The knee doesn't operate independently. The knee is actually at the mercy of what's going on at the hip and what's going on at the ankle. So anytime we have a place that is irritated, right, or just doesn't feel right, or doesn't move the way we want to, many times we'll look what we call up the chain and down the chain. And so what's going on at your hip? Do you have sufficient hip internal rotation? So when you squat, your pelvis moves the way that it's supposed to, right? Can your ankle dorsiflex the way that it needs to? Can you drive your knee over your toe? Because those may be limited. And then when those hit the end ranges on what they have available to them, again, your body's going to accomplish what you want it to accomplish, and it'll find a different way to do that. And so looking above the chain and up the chain. So we find with a lot of people with knee pain are missing some internal rotation of their hip, meaning their hip doesn't rotate in the way that it needs to. And actually hip rotating in is really, really important for squatting because as you squat, your femur actually rotates inside of your pelvis, inside of that acetabulum in an internal fashion. And so as people age, they miss a lot. They start losing some of that internal rotation, which affects their ability to squat, affects their ability to get up and off the ground because they haven't really spent a lot of time mobilizing it, or I should say, excuse me, exploring those end ranges. That's actually one of the reasons with our warm-ups, right? Our warm-ups, we kind of have people get into some goofy positions, right? Or we have them find some end ranges, some extreme positions because they're unloaded and we want their body to have access to that. We actually want them to have access to more range than what they would actually need in any given workout. Because if you have a little bit of slack at those end ranges, now if something weird happens in life where you just get put into a tough position, your body at least understands or has a framework to be able to work in those end ranges. So I think the ankle and the hip are really important too. Just because your knee hurts doesn't mean it's always a knee problem. Could be a hip problem. It could be an ankle problem. That's why it's good to have those things checked out.
It could be all or both. You know what I mean? Like there's so many moving factors when we talk about bodies, but we know that we have a sitting problem.
Mm-hmm.
Where like I think we don't like when we talk about this a ton, like our clients that come in and they have pain. Well, what'd you do today? What did your day look like? Well, if you spend the majority of your day in a seated position and your knee is in flexion and your foot is flexed in a certain position and your hip is flexed in a certain position.
You're talking about people sitting on their feet?
No, but like you're sitting in a chair and your feet are flexed in a certain position. Like have you done other angles with your feet today? Or are you sitting with your feet perfectly flat on the floor and your knees are perfectly flat on your floor and you're sitting perfectly vertical where everybody's in this beautiful 90-degree angle? I think like sometimes my clients have knee pain because they sat cross-legged with their foot under their leg for the majority of their day. Like there are things that we're doing every day that make it whether we have pain or we don't have pain.
And so one good thing around pain, or one thing to start thinking about, is stop hitting your hand with a hammer, right? So if you have pain, let's stop doing the things that cause it. If you're sitting on your leg underneath your body, right, while you're sitting in your chair, those are some things that we probably want to start eliminating because it just creates inherent asymmetries, right? No one sits on both legs. You sit on one leg. You have a dominant one. And I bet if we were to test the hips, one hip would behave much differently than the other hip. Would be my guess on my hypothesis. And so that's just going to change how the body moves, right? And so I think a good framework, especially mentally, to think about pain too, is pain is a way that our body is communicating with us that we need to do something a little bit different, right? Or we're missing something. And so then we can explore and experiment and try to attack it rather than having this really negative connotation around pain where I just want to get rid of it.
Well, and I think the other thing is with pain, so often we're like, oh, I'm in pain, I'm just not going to train today. Oh, I'm in pain, I'm just going to skip. So my thought process is give me, depending on what kind of day it is and what kind of the injury is and that kind of thing, give me a couple tries to see what's going on. In the beginning, our goal is going to be to work through it. If it becomes a point of frustration, or maybe today is just not going to happen, or that movement, maybe we just decide today that movement isn't the right one, we're going to modify it. And this is like one of the biggest benefits is you don't have to troubleshoot this by yourself. This is what like having a coach really looks like is, hey, I see you and I see this is going on. And based on this and this, like, hey, we're not going to squat today. Instead of this, we're going to do this exercise. We're probably going to work the same muscle group. Maybe you're going to change your tempo, your sets or reps or something like that we're going to use to target this. So next time you come in to train, you will be able to squat. And there are so many little intricacies and things that we can switch and we alternate so our clients can have and be able to do all of those things.
And I'll give you an example on that too. So I have a client right now that needs knee replacements. Like legit needs knee replacements. Like it's bone on bone, no cartilage left, but has to go through the process, right? There's, if insurance is going to pay for this, you have to play their game. And so he has to do all of these things before. And so he's probably a year out from knee replacements, right? Which when you're in pain isn't very fun. But we've learned a little bit about what causes pain, and squatting can cause pain sometimes. So we have alternatives to everything. So if he comes in a day and it's really flared up, maybe he was on his feet a lot over the weekend and on uneven ground where that just caused a lot of irritation in that joint. He comes in, we try it. First set, if it doesn't feel good, if it doesn't feel right, we have alternatives. He goes to a wall sit because we know that that's not going to cause any pain. But we're still able to influence the tissue around the knee, right? A wall sit, those muscles are contracting and holding, but it's not causing any pain because there's not movement through the knee. And that's really that rubbing is what causes pain. And the cool thing about those muscle contractions that are happening is those muscle contractions are actually pumping blood and fluid around. And so now we're creating a lubrication around that joint. And so him doing that can actually make the knees feel better because we're bringing new blood in, we're getting rid of metabolites, we're kind of lubricating that joint. And so his body is kind of working with him. Versus if I sit and do nothing, that can sometimes be the worst thing that you can do because things start to tighten up. The fascia gets dehydrated, the tissue starts to get tight, the tissue starts to get dehydrated, and now we don't have these sliding surfaces anymore. And that's why sometimes when you get up and you like crank everything, right? Oh, I'm getting old, but I got to crank everything. It's because the tissue is super dehydrated. And we need to bring some. And then we also look at like hydration strategies and other things that could be beneficial for this person.
One of the biggest things we talk about, like you were just saying, like we're a year away from this. You can spend a year trying to put muscle mass on there and being strong and keeping your legs as close to symmetrical as possible, like making sure you're training your right side and your left side. So you're in the best possible place going into the surgery because obviously, I mean, I'm going to guess this client can still ride the bike, and the bike is pretty low pain-free energy. So now we're keeping our cardiovascular health up, and we're strength training, so our muscles good. So your recovery should be better than if you were untrained or undertrained. And I have clients that like are old enough that they need a replacement, but they don't qualify for a replacement. And here she is training with her knee, and while things are hard, she still feels like she has better balance, better stability. She's more confident doing things in her home, and she lives by herself. But they're not going to give her a replacement because of her age and her health. But like, what if you don't do those things? How much sooner are you limiting yourself to what your capabilities are?
And this isn't really debatable, but the better shape that you go into a surgery in, the better your outcomes, right? Someone that has good muscle strength, good cardiorespiratory capacity, they're in good shape, you're going to recover much better from a surgery than someone that isn't. And it's kind of like a duh, right? Like something that's technically healthier, an organism that's healthier. And when you do something to it, like a surgery, like they'll be able to recover better because it's a healthier organism, right? And so we've seen it time and time again where we've had a client that had one knee done before they worked with us. And then they worked with us for a period of time, and then they had the other knee done. And their recovery is drastically different between the two knees because they went into the second one in much better shape. They had some strength around it, right? And they were in a better state when they went into surgery, which means their recovery was much better coming out of it. And so the other thing to always think about is like, what can you do, right? What can you do? And the gym is a really cool place because there are so many different variations on every single thing that we do, right? It's so much different. Strength training is so much different than, let's call it like running, right? Running, you can really only like run faster, you can run slower, you can maybe run uphill, you can run downhill. Most people don't run backwards or they don't run sideways, right? So it's very like limited. But I bet I could have Ashley, if she had the tools necessary, demonstrate 15 versions of a squat, right? Of a way to bend your knees, right? And there's so many variations on these things. And so it's about finding what works for your body, for your structure, and for your injury history. So like for example, this client that has bad knees, he can push the sled with a ton of load. Like we can load the sled up with 500 pounds and he can crank that thing down with no pain. Cool. That's a great exercise that we can get after, right? That doesn't irritate things, but really challenges, the muscular system of the lower body. And so I think it's really experimenting and finding what can you do, what exercises are available to you, right, to your capacity, and then you just hammer those. Yes, your exercise library might be a little bit smaller. Like, who cares, right? There's certain things that are going to work better for you. So
But here, like, I think, like, the biggest takeaway for anyone watching this and dealing with pain, and today we talked about knees and we'll talk about some other ones, is that your pain doesn't have to be your limitation. It can 100% be your reason that you should show up and train.
And this, like, the other thing too, like, I wanted to just like preface this with like, pain is a very real thing. It has massive impacts on our brain and like how we think and our outlook and like lots of like, it isn't just like my knee hurts. Many times my knee hurt can affect how I see the world and like how I react to things. And like pain is like not a fun thing to be in, but your perception of pain is also really important too. And like how you're perceiving it. And so like, I don't want us to sound callous about like, okay, there's nothing wrong. We just do these things and it'll be fixed. Like it is very like to you, it's very real. And so it's not necessarily like fighting it, but trying to, okay, this is telling me something. And now what can I do? Right. Or what might this be telling me? What do I need to do more of or do less of? And use it as a way to like motivate you in a way to do stuff as hard as that can be, especially when like our brain tells us like this sucks and we can move into a really dark place with it.
Well, and I want the other thing to be is like you're not sitting with people, Trevor and I, who've played sports and done athletics, and we have been strength training ourselves outside of athletics for years and years and years. We have dealt with injuries, like surgery, injuries, like stuff that we've had to come back from and return from. So like we understand. Like I would never say pain is real. I've had shoulder stuff. I've had knee surgery. Like I understand. Like there is things to overcome, and there is tons there. And like I know Trevor has had to come back from injury. So like know that like we understand too. It isn't just like, oh, this hurts and we're just going to ignore it. Like pain is very real and it's very important, but like also what are we looking at your workouts like to overcome it? And I think there's still a lot of room for people to overcome that, and they're just afraid to start because they're in pain. And this is where hiring a professional is different than you going to the gym and trying to work around your pain yourself.
Right. Exactly. Because many times I don't know what to do. Right. Because many of the things that we were talking about today, the person that doesn't necessarily work with people on a regular basis or study this kind of stuff would really be thinking about that. They just think like my knee hurts and I want the pain in my knee to go away. Right. And so definitely find people that understand the body, that understand your goals, that kind of work with you to find different things, because there isn't like, if this is hurting, do this. Like pain is too much of a complicated, complex thing where if someone like says that they understand exactly what's going on, it's BS, because it's it's too complicated of a process inside of our body to be able to say like, oh, it hurts because of X. This is the reason. Like, well, it could be that. Like, I have a good hunch that it could be that, right? And great examples is back pain. And so, like, we could take an MRI of 100 different people, and we could probably find a reason to do surgery on a lot of them, right? But most of them would not be in pain, despite having herniations and other deformities inside of the spinal column. And so why someone has pain and why someone doesn't have pain isn't always black and white. And
And
most of the
people
time it
can
isn't
have
black and white.
very, very small issues and they can have significantly more pain than people with very big issues. Like, so, like, no, there's so many sliding scales and so many things. All
This,
right,
this
go
is a
ahead.
very complicated, this is a very complicated biological process that we don't fully understand is a good way to think about it too. And so everyone is kind of guessing. Even your surgeons, even your doctors, even your chiropractors, everyone is kind of guessing. Some people have a lot better guesses than others, but everyone is kind of guessing that this is going to be the thing that makes it work because it isn't black and white. And you can just look at back surgeries as an evidence of that.
We will talk about backs, so we're going to save that for another day. All right, if you guys have any questions or you specifically are dealing with pain, these are things that we can assess in the gym, and you are more than welcome to schedule an appointment with us, to schedule a success session. We can do some movement screens on you, see what's going on, and we can give you our best guess.
Correct. And many times, if we don't know or if we feel like it's out of our scope, we send you to someone that we trust, right? So we have people in our kind of Rolodex, right? The PTs that we love, the chiros that we love, the massage therapists that we love, and we send them. We our goal is to find the person that you need, and we can many times be at least a conduit to find people that you may need in order to help overcome it. So keep looking for answers. That's it.
Bye, guys.
There's this.